Serkatai's mourning scene for his brother sets a very harsh vector. When the words about hiding the wound until the moment of revenge are spoken, it clearly prepares us for his cold-blooded and methodical hunt. In the next episode, we will likely see Serkatai start acting bypassing orders to personally get to each conspirator. The promise to breathe down the neck of each of the killers sounds like more than just an empty threat. Most likely, in the new episode, this anger will result in brutal interrogations of prisoners. Serkatai will no longer be able to just wait, and his impatience could provoke a conflict even within their own ranks, disrupting the overall plan of the Beys. Orhan says that the enemies are waiting for the pack to scatter so they can attack one by one. This line works as a direct warning about the enemy's tactics. It is logical to expect that in the continuation, the Byzantines will set up a series of targeted ambushes specifically on those commanders who carelessly remain without the cover of the main forces in the forest. Mehmet Bey is confident that the Kipchaks are about to close the ring around their enemies. However, this confidence seems premature. After such a scene, it becomes clear that the trap will not snap shut the way the traitors planned. In the next episode, this miscalculation will force the enemies to look for new, more hidden allies within the Turkic camps. The merchant admits that he sold a horse to the Rum Hatun for a jewel. This short episode triggers a huge chain of consequences. Now that Asborsa's tracks have been found, in the new episode, one of Orhan's loyal warriors will be forced to follow a false trail, risking falling right into the clutches of Andronikos' men. Nilüfer's anger that the guards slept through Asborsa's escape shows her growing frustration. She increasingly perceives the second wife as a direct threat to the family's safety. Most likely, in the next episode, Nilüfer will try to establish her own independent control over the palace guards to prevent such incidents from happening again. Malhun Hatun defends Asborsa, reminding her why she came to the palace. But Nilüfer is clearly not ready to listen to this. It seems that the tension between the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law will only escalate further. Nilüfer may openly sabotage Malhun's orders, believing that she is too soft on the Byzantine who brings nothing but trouble. Gonca's sudden sharp pain is an alarming signal. The scene intentionally cuts off at the attempt to hide her condition. Because of this, we can expect that in the next episode, her weakness will manifest itself at the most critical moment, when the palace is vulnerable, and enemies will try to use her condition as leverage. Orhan's speech about the loss of his mentor is incredibly emotional. He calls to turn pain into rage for new victories. After such words, it is logical to expect that his battle tactics in the next episode will become more aggressive and ruthless. He will stop playing long-term diplomacy where he can simply strike with a sword. Shahin Shah calls Orhan a jackal in wolf's clothing, refusing to admit defeat. His reluctance to surrender even when surrounded hints at a hidden trump card. Apparently, in the continuation, this traitor will activate sleeper agents inside the palace itself to stab Orhan in the back when he decides that the danger has passed. The moment it becomes clear that the Kipchaks actually stand for Orhan turns the balance of power upside down. Demirhan Bey has made his choice. Now, in the continuation, we can expect that the enemies who survived this massacre will try to take revenge specifically on Demirhan's tribe, organizing a punitive raid on his camp. Nilüfer directly admits that her heart is scorched by jealousy. The question of whether she will have to share her children with Asborsa sounds like a preparation for a strike. Most likely, in the new episode, she will start turning her sons against the Byzantine. By the way, if you like our breakdowns, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Malhun harshly checks Nilüfer, forbidding her to tarnish Asborsa's image in the eyes of the children. This threat is not an empty sound. If Nilüfer violates a direct order, we will surely see Malhun temporarily deprive her of influence over the upbringing of the Shehzade, which will lead to a grand scandal in the harem. Shahin Shah makes the decision to retreat, realizing that the forces are absolutely unequal. His escape leaves the question of revenge open. Judging by this scene, in the next episode, he will not launch a frontal attack, but will start acting on the sly, possibly using poisons or hired killers. The news that Boran took a hail of arrows closes his storyline, but opens a new one. The fact that the killer hid his face speaks to his fear. In the next episode, Finding this man will become an obsession for Çerkute, who is ready to turn over every stone in the area. The princess thanks the knights for their service, noting that her brother will send them a reward. This formal politeness hides her attempt to establish her own connections. It seems that she will later try to use these mercenaries bypassing Andronikos' will, building her own personal spy network for secret missions. Shamil brings the news of the capture of Çınarlı, but the joy is overshadowed by grief. The contrast between victory and loss is very sharp. Due to this placement of accents, we can expect that in the new episode, the management of the captured territory will fade into the background, and the main thing will be the brutal suppression of any remnants of resistance. The words at the grave that Boran was the shadow of the most powerful bey sound like a farewell to a whole era. This speech is designed to close ranks. In the continuation, we will likely see young warriors begin to compete for the right to take his place beside Orhan, which will cause internal tension. Aladdin reports that Fatma went in pursuit of Asporka, and other forces have divided. The division of the squads puts each group under attack. It seems we will later see how one of these groups falls into a deadly trap, and Orhan will have to choose which of his people to send reinforcements to. The order to dig moats and set traps around the city speaks of preparation for a tight defense. This decision by Aladdin indicates that the enemy is closer than it seems. Most likely, it is one of these hidden traps that will work against spies trying to penetrate behind the walls under the cover of night. Halime decides to track down where Dursun's kidnappers will stop for the night, to attack at night. This delay in time gives the enemies a chance to prepare. Because of this plan, in the next episode, her squad may face the fact that the overnight stay turns out to be a well-guarded fortress, and not a simple camp in the forest. Shahin Shah's words about the loss of his homeland are soaked in poison. His threat to slaughter Orhan's kin sounds too specific and purposeful. This hints that his next target will not be warriors, but the children in the harem. We expect that in the continuation, he will try to send an assassin straight into the palace. The quarrel between the beys shows that their alliance is bursting at the seams. When one reproaches the other for weakness, it is a sure sign of imminent betrayal. The most logical next step here is secret negotiations of one of the conspirators with Orhan to save his own skin in exchange for valuable information. The mention of a meeting with the new emperor of Rome in the Dormition Monastery brings all storylines to a single location. This place will become the epicenter. After this line, we can expect that in the next episode, the monastery will turn into a battlefield where the interests of Orhan, the Byzantines, and the traitorous beys will collide. Fatma instructs the Bachians to distract the guards while she makes her way to the kitchen. This classic maneuver conceals an obvious flaw. Judging by her confidence, in the new episode she will face the internal, hidden guards of the monastery, and her quiet mission will instantly turn into open combat. Abbess Sophia promises Asporsa to help at the cost of her life, reminding her of her father's kindness. This ally provides a chance for success. But it is most logical to expect that in the next episode, Sophia's deception will be revealed, and Andronikos will punish her severely to teach a bloody lesson to all sympathizers. Sophia warns that the old emperor is doing very poorly, and it will be hard to take him. This limitation of physical capabilities changes everything. In the continuation, it is the father's inability to move quickly that will force Asporsa to make a desperate decision. To stay with him surrounded, sacrificing her own escape. Evrinos' words that his sole purpose is to give his life under Orhan's banner complete his transformation. He is no longer a Roman. After such a confession, in the continuation, he will surely commit an act that will prove his loyalty with blood, possibly shielding one of the commanders with his own body. Milufer complains to her mother that Orhan rushed to save Asporza, risking himself for a forced marriage. Her resentment turns into an open grievance. After such words, we should expect that in the next episode she will try to intercept influence in her husband's absence, issuing her own orders to the guards. Halima infiltrates the captive Dursun disguised as a food delivery woman. Their short exchange of remarks shows readiness for a breakthrough. In the next episode, their escape is unlikely to go quietly. Most likely, they will have to fight their way through the inner courtyard. And that is where Dursun will show his true strength. Dursun thanks her for the rescue, noting that Halime did not leave him alone. This moment finally cements their alliance. In the new episode, it is logical to expect that they will begin to act as a coordinated combat unit, planning a joint attack on those beys who set up this captivity. Orhan orders Fatma to stay outside and guard the perimeter. We know Fatma's character. She rarely sits still. The most likely move here is that she will disobey the order and follow him. This insubordination could either save Orhan's life or be the cause of her own capture. Andronikos states that he will first see his grandfather, whom he calls the disgrace of the bloodline. This sequence of actions is extremely important. It seems that in the new episode, he will try to force an official abdication out of the old emperor by force or threats before Orhan has time to intervene in the situation. Aladdin informs Gonca that his brother has forgiven her, and now they will be together on missions. This joy looks too unclouded for the current atmosphere. Against the background of such a scene, it is logical to expect that their very first joint assignment in the next episode will turn into a disaster and mortal risk. Orhan's meeting with Clemens, who immediately orders his death, occurs without any extra words. Judging by this reaction, a lightning-fast and brutal skirmish right in the corridors awaits us next. Orhan will not stall for conversations. His only goal is to break through to the cell of Asborsa's father. Asborsa sees her father blinded. The phrase, "they gouged out the eyes of the Roman eagle," puts an end to his political career. In the next episode, Asborsa, seeing this atrocity, will finally lose her illusions about a peaceful dialogue. This sight will push her on the path of ruthless revenge against Andronikos. The old emperor mumbles about the throne and refuses to get up quickly. His mind is clearly damaged by torture. Because of this delay, an attempt at a quick escape in the new episode will certainly fail. It is his slowness that will give Andronikos' guards time to tightly surround the room and lock the exits. Evernos notices that the prince's squad is already close, and Orhan is still inside. An argument arises over whether to attack or wait. From this nervous pause, it seems that later Evernos will take the initiative into his own hands and launch a diversionary maneuver outside to draw the guards to himself. The page children admit that it was they who helped Asborsa escape from the palace. This confession sounds like a sentence to themselves. In the next episode, this will entail a new split. Nilufer will demand they be severely punished, while Malhun will try to protect them, which will further intensify the conflict in the harem. Passing Boran's kopuz and weapon as a legacy to Cherkute is a strong gesture. The promise to continue his epic speaks volumes. In the continuation, we will surely see how this oath forces the warriors to act with doubled fury, using the name of their fallen brother as a battle cry in attacks. Clemens interrogates Sophia about who she is and what she is doing in the monastery. His distrust is obvious. After this short exchange of remarks, we can expect that he will not believe her excuses, and in the next episode will try to torture her to find out where the infiltrators are hiding. Shamil Bey orders to flank the enemy from the rear to meet the Sultan. This tactical bypass sounds reasonable, but conceals a threat. Most likely, in the new episode, this flanking maneuver will stumble upon Andronikos' hidden reserves, and Shamil's squad will be trapped between two lines of monastery defense. Orhan reproaches Sophia for being in civilian clothes and without guards. Her excuses sound unconvincing. This detail hints that Sophia is playing a double game. It is logical to expect that further on her loyalty will waver, and she may try to give Orhan up to save her own life. Gonca's contractions intensify, and the midwife asks her to push with all her might. The situation is getting out of control. Judging by the panic, in the next episode, Gonca's physical exhaustion may become a reason for rumors about her inability to be a strong wife, which her envious rivals in the palace will use. Andronikos gloats upon learning that Asborsa was caught in nun's clothing. His order to kill the guilty guards shows absolute cruelty. After such a scene, it is expected that he will start public executions right in front of the princess, trying to break her will before the interrogation. The insult to Orhan, called a goat herder, and Asborsa's steadfast defense of her husband show her devotion. This detail hints that later, Andronikos will try to use her loyalty against her, threatening her father with torture to force her to reveal the military secrets of the Ottomans. The conversation about the Ottoman Muslims at the bridge reveals Orhan's strategy to cut off reinforcements. However, the enemy already knows about this. It is logical to expect that in the next episode, this stone bridge will become the site of a brutal ambush, where Orhan's men will face superior forces from Samandra. Andronikos laughs at his grandfather's old alliances and promises that the end will come to everyone. His self-confidence is frightening. Judging by these words, in the new episode, he will not wait for Orhan's attack, but will deal a preemptive strike himself on the nearest settlements to demonstrate his power. The mention of an alliance with the Pope and the unification of churches is a threat on a completely different scale. If the Latin ships arrive, it will be hard for the Ottomans. Apparently, Orhan will be forced to look for new allies at sea or prepare sabotage in the ports to stop this fleet. The order to send Asporsa to Constantinople sets a strict timer on her rescue. If she is taken away, it will become almost impossible to get her back. It is exactly because of this decision that in the next episode, a desperate attack by Orhan on the convoy is expected, right in the middle of the road, ignoring the enemy's numerical superiority. The moment when Fatma recognizes the mysterious man as Yiğit, the killer, is steeped in personal hatred. His words about returning for revenge show obsession. In the next episode, this local conflict will escalate into a personal vendetta for Fatma, who will try to destroy him herself, violating all orders. Yiğit declares that he is already dead and orders to bring Greek fire. This weapon changes the rules of the game. After such a threat, it is logical to expect that the flames will engulf the forest or surrounding buildings, and the heroes will have to not only fight the enemy, but also survive in a shrinking ring of fire. The scene where Yiğit eventually burns himself puts a cruel end to his storyline. But the fire cannot be put out just like that. It seems that further on, this incident will attract the attention of large Byzantine forces. The glow will reveal the positions of Fatma's squad, forcing them to retreat urgently under the cover of smoke. Serkutay catches up with the traitor and tells him straight that Orhan is not here, which means there will be no mercy. The words, "Now you will die," leave no choice. In the new episode, we will see how Serkutay beats information out of him about other conspirators before exacting his revenge. Gonca's condition becomes critical. She does not regain consciousness. The midwife's prayers bring the tension to a breaking point. Because of this weakness, in the next episode, we can expect that news of her near-death state will leak beyond the palace walls, provoking enemies to launch a premature attack. Al-Adin's desperate prayers to save his wife expose his complete vulnerability. He has lost control over his emotions. If rumors of this reach the spies, in the continuation, Al-Adin will become the main target for psychological pressure, which will force him to make a mistake in defense. The crying of the child and the relief in the palace is a bright but brief moment. Gonca survived, but she is extremely exhausted. After this scene, it is logical to expect that the protection of the newborn will come to the fore. Unprecedented security will be placed around the infant, which will increase paranoia in the family. Andronikos furiously demands to bring the one who helped Asporsa escape. Upon learning Clemens's name, he realizes the scale of the betrayal. After such an exposure, in the next episode, the Emperor will surely begin a bloody purge among his closest circle, ceasing to trust even his loyal officers. The Emperor sets a condition. The Pope's fleet will only help if they help him take Chinarla. This deal binds two wars into one. Apparently, in the new episode, Orhan will face a double blow: a land attack for Chinarla and a naval blockade, which will force him to divide his army. The mother hurries Anastasia to flee, saying it's time to meet her father. Their secret departure from the house looks like a flight from an impending storm. In the continuation, this storyline will definitely intersect with one of the main characters, and Anastasia will most likely become an important trump card in the hands of the Ottomans. Orhan harshly scolds Asporsa for her unauthorized departure, reminding her that her every step now reflects on him. His tone brooks no objection. This argument shows that in the next episode, Orhan will tighten his control over his wife, perhaps even assigning her a personal guard, which she will perceive as captivity. Asporsa defends herself, claiming she warned everyone, but they wouldn't listen. Her words that she will not just sit and wait in the palace sound like a manifesto. Because of this stubbornness, it is logical to expect that later she will try to intervene in politics again, but much more covertly. Orhan's words that he trusts her so much that he can lay down his sword and sleep with his back turned deeply strike Asborsa. This confession breaks the ice. Against the background of such a scene, we can expect that in the new episode she will reciprocate and reveal to him some important secret of her father, or Rome. Orhan demands that from now on she make decisions only with him, be it war or death. This ultimatum binds their fates definitively. Most likely, Orhan will start bringing her to military councils, which will cause strong dissatisfaction among the old Turkic beys. Titus and the princess discuss honor, loyalty, and the coup. Titus's words that soldiers only know how to fight for victory show his pragmatism. Judging by this conversation, in the next episode, Titus may switch sides if he realizes that Andronikos is leading Rome to defeat, not victory. Malhun Hatun makes the children answer for helping Asbortha. She promises they will face punishment. This promise will not be forgotten. In the continuation, we will see how this punishment is carried out, and it may turn out to be unexpectedly severe in order to nip any insubordination in the bud. The solemn naming of the infant as Huzur completes the storyline of the difficult childbirth. This name is given as a symbol of hope. In the next episode, the very fact of the appearance of a new strong heir will provoke enemies to take radical measures. They will realize that Osman's line must be slaughtered immediately before it grows stronger. Dursun firmly declares that he will no longer bear the stigma of a traitor and challenges his family. His words that there is no turning back sound like a declaration of war. Most likely, he will then try to raise an armed uprising among his loyal warriors within his native tribe. Dursun's plan to take the seat of the ruler of Kuresi with Orhan's support turns a local conflict into a geopolitical one. It's a huge risk. Judging by this determination, in the new episode he will start pulling forces to the borders of the Beylik, provoking his own father into striking first to justify his attack. Sending a messenger to Orhan with a request to support the uprising in Kuresi puts the Sultan before a choice. Orhan needs strong allies. It seems that in the next episode, Orhan will allocate his best fighters to Dursun so that he can carry out a lightning-fast coup before his father has time to gather an army. The sudden appearance of the Ottomans before the Byzantine commanders ruins their plans to attack the Muslims. The words, "We are your nightmare," portend a massacre. In the continuation, this squad will not take prisoners. They will slaughter Andronikos' commanders to demoralize the enemy's main army before the bridge. Şerkutay speaks bitterly about how Boran left no children who could carry on his name. This thought of a broken lineage deeply wounds the warriors. Because of this realization, it is logical to expect that in the next episode, Şerkutay will take one of the orphans under his wing to raise him into a new warrior. Evrenos confesses to Fatma that he dreams of children, a girl resembling her and a brave son. This peaceful desire sounds like an ominous omen. In TV shows, such dreams are often shattered. It seems that further on, one of them will receive a severe injury that will jeopardize their very future together. Asborsa admits that she had to give the gifted necklace to a merchant for a horse, and she is very upset about it. This seemingly small detail may play a role. In the new episode, Orhan will surely find a way to return this necklace, either by severely punishing the merchant or buying the item back as a sign of his love. Asborsa tells how she saw their wedding and this necklace in a nightmare back when they were enemies. Now this nightmare has become destiny. This personal confession finally brings them together. Most likely, in the next episode, their union will become so strong that none of Andronikos' intrigues will be able to drive a wedge between them. Asborsa's confession of her pregnancy completely breaks the balance of power in the palace. This news blows up the status quo. After such news, we can expect that her influence will instantly increase. And this is exactly what will become the main trigger for Nilüfer in the next episode, who will perceive the unborn child as a direct threat to her sons. The return of the blinded old emperor and the mother's words that it is their fault put a terrible end to the episode. The sight of the mutilated grandfather will become a catalyst. Judging by the finale, in the next episode, this shock will turn hidden politics into open war. The heroes will discard diplomacy and begin to gather troops for large-scale revenge.
Hindi na ako iyo, nakalimutan mo na ba ang mga pangako sa ilalim ng puno ng nara? Dati-rati